A while after the release of Toy Story, in an airport, John Lasseter noticed a young boy excitedly showing his Woody doll to his father. It was a small moment, but a powerful one. Until then, Toy Story had belonged to him and his team. In that airport, he realized it no longer did. It now belonged to the children who loved it. That realization changed everything. Toy Story wasn't just a technological breakthrough or a box office success. It had become part of people's lives. And when a film reaches that point, a sequel is no longer a question of if, but when. For Disney, the answer to that when was almost immediately. Toy Story was a critical and financial success. So was The Return of Jafar, Disney's direct-to-video sequel to Aladdin. From a corporate perspective, the logic was simple. If a cheaply produced sequel could generate strong home video revenue, why not repeat the strategy? Disney had already built a system around lower budget sequels for their animated hits. Disney already owned the Toy Story property, so they could easily do it. A direct-to-video sequel would mean lower production costs and no need to share profits the same way they did with Pixar's theatrical originals. There was uncertainty about the format, whether it would be 2D or 3D, but given Disney's other sequels at the time, a cheaper 2D version seemed plausible. The red flags were obvious. The sequel to the first feature-length fully computer-animated film was going to become a 1-hour direct-to-video follow-up, possibly not even in 3D, and not intended for theaters. When John Lasseter found out, he was horrified. If Toy Story 2 was going to exist, he wanted it done properly, so he approached Disney with a counter-proposal. Pixar would make it themselves. Disney agreed, but reminded Pixar of a crucial contract clause. The agreement covered the distribution of 3 original Pixar films. Toy Story counted as one. A Bug's Life was already in production as the second, but Toy Story 2 was a sequel, not an original property. So it would not count toward that 3-film deal. Pixar would still owe Disney another original film afterward, under the same revenue sharing terms. Despite the disadvantage, Lasseter agreed. He couldn't let Disney mishandle the franchise, but almost immediately he realized the scale of what he had committed to. Lasseter promised Disney something extremely ambitious. Pixar would deliver what Disney wanted, but faster. That was nearly impossible. The studio was already fully committed to finishing A Bug's Life. Fortunately, Pixar had recently established a secondary division focused on interactive content. This team had developed CD-ROM titles such as Toy Story Activity Center and Toy Story Animated Storybook. These were multimedia companion projects. Modestly successful, but not the financial breakthrough that Steve Jobs had hoped for. Jobs eventually concluded that games in that format wouldn't rival the revenue potential of theatrical films, so the interactive division was repurposed. This became Pixar's unofficial B team. They had already produced substantial 3D animation work for the CD-ROM projects. Nearly as much character-based animation as the original Toy Story. The assumption was simple. If this team focused solely on animation production, perhaps they could deliver a feature-length sequel while the main creative team finished A Bug's Life. Technically, the plan made sense. Creatively, it was less stable. Lasseter would still oversee the story structure, drawing from personal experience. He is a passionate toy collector. He once joked that he used Pixar's credit card to buy toys in the name of research. But he is also a father. His children loved visiting Pixar's offices, a place filled with rare and valuable collectibles. At first, he worried they might damage something irreplaceable. Eventually, he realized something fundamental. Toys are meant to be played with, so he would let his kids play with his rare collector's items. That emotional insight became the thematic core of Toy Story 2. Now look at this. To someone unfamiliar with unique systems, it looks harmless. To anyone who understands command line environments, it's devastating. This command forcefully and recursively deletes everything in the current directory without confirmation. Pixar servers ran on Unix. All employees had access to the shared production directories. At some point during the development, someone accidentally executed that command at the root of the Toy Story 2 project directory. In seconds, months, or even years of work began disappearing. Entire asset trees, animation files, layout data, and models gone. Normally this would be recoverable. Studios rely on robust backup systems precisely for scenarios like this. But Pixar's backup system had silently failed. Either it had stopped functioning weeks earlier, or the stored backups were corrupted. Now it was truly time to panic. An emergency meeting was called. Galen Suzman, one of the supervising technical directors, who had recently given birth and was working from home as a result, mentioned that she had a relatively recent copy of the film's assets on her personal workstation. A small team drove to her house, carefully transported the computer back to Pixar, literally wrapped in blankets and pillows, and began extracting the files. Most of the project was salvaged. Some data was permanently lost, but the majority survived. It's a dramatic story, almost mythic in tone, but the recovered version was not the finished film we know today. Even without the deletion disaster, the movie still had a much bigger problem. It wasn't good enough. Toy Story 2 is widely considered superior to Toy Story 1. That is rare, especially for animated sequels, which often feel like commercial extensions rather than artistic evolutions. Had Pixar released the recovered version as it was, the film likely would have been decent, competent, maybe even good, but not exceptional. Let me ask you a question. What makes Toy Story 2 special? In my view, it's Jessie, her abandonment story, her emotional trauma, and her fear of being forgotten. Without her, Woody's internal conflict loses weight. The sequel's philosophical question, preservation versus purpose, loses urgency. But the earlier version of the film didn't include Jessie as we know her. In that draft, Jessie was a cactus-themed antagonist alongside Stinky Pete. Bullseye could speak and carried the tragic backstory, and Stinky Pete's villainy was obvious from the start. The emotional subtlety simply wasn't there. In that version, only Bullseye would have joined the main cast. It lacked the emotional core that defines the final film, and that's why a rewrite became necessary. During the development, Disney screened footage and was impressed. What began as a direct-to-video project was upgraded to a full theatrical release. That decision raised the standard dramatically. Around this time, A Bug's Life was nearing completion, which allowed Pixar's primary creative team to shift focus to Toy Story 2. The film underwent a concentrated rewrite process during an intense story weekend. It was during this period that Nancy Lasseter, John Lasseter's wife, suggested reshaping Jessie into a more sympathetic character rather than another antagonist. She would become a toy abandoned by her owner. That change transformed the film's emotional architecture. Now Woody's dilemma wasn't just about fame or preservation. It was about confronting being outgrown. And also now Toy Story had a great female character. as opposed to Bo Peep and the newcomer Mrs. Potato Head. Nothing against those two characters, I love them as I love most Toy Story characters. But honestly, they are more or less just love interests rather than fully fledged characters. The rewrite worked, but it came as a cost. Disney would not significantly extend the release schedule. Pixar had approximately 9 months to rework, reanimate, and finish the film. What followed was one of the most severe crunch periods in the studio's history. Employees worked extreme hours. Fatigue became routine. In one alarming incident, an exhausted employee accidentally left his baby in the car in the parking lot. Thankfully, the child was unharmed. But the situation forced Pixar to confront the human cost of its production culture. The studio later acknowledged that the line had been crossed. Internally, Toy Story 2 became a cautionary tale, not just about creative risk, but about sustainable production practices. The movie starts with Buzz Lightyear in the space. He reaches a planet and after many trials, he reaches his arch nemesis Zurg. Buzz dies and that's when we cut to the real Buzz. Yeah, this whole thing was a video game being played by Rex. That's one good looking SNES game. Woody is stressed because Andy is going to take him to a cowboy camp, but Woody cannot find his hat. The toys see an advertisement of a man in a chicken suit in a toy store. He gives a very bad vibe to all the toys, to the extent that they can't stand looking at him for a second. Slinky finds Woody's hat. Then they hear the barking of Buster, Andy's dog. The toys hide. At first it sounds like trouble, but when Buster finds Woody, he starts playing with him. This whole thing was a game of hide and seek, and Buster had been aware of the toy's sentience this whole time. You can check out the comics to see how Buster became friends with the toys. Woody's right hand tears off a little bit when Andy was playing with him, meaning Andy can't take Woody to the cowboy camp. Woody gets shelved. In the first movie, Buzz had an existential crisis, and this time it is Woody's turn. He will have a nightmare about being thrown away by Andy. On the shelf, Woody sees Wheezy, a penguin toy who has been broken, and the rest thought he was sent to be fixed. He has accepted his fate and waits for Andy's mom to sell him in a yard sale. But Woody won't accept it. With the help of Buster, he saves him, but Woody himself ends up in the yard sale. Andy's mom makes sure not to sell Woody, but a man, after failing to buy Woody, decides to steal him. It takes the toys long enough to realize this man is Al, the guy in the chicken suit. When Al has gone to work, Woody tries to escape his house, but he meets 3 new characters. Bullseye, a horse toy who, unlike Slinky, acts more like an animal than a person. Jessie, a cowgirl doll who at the moment is extremely energetic. And Stinky Pete, an old man prospector toy. Woody gets scared of how excited these people he never met are to see him. When they realize he isn't in the know, they tell him that he used to be one of the biggest franchises ever, a beloved TV show from the black and white TV era, and tons of merchandise. At Andy's room, the toys are looking through the TV channels to find Al's ad. While doing so, we see snippets of some Pixar animated shorts, including Teen Toy, the short that led to the creation of Toy Story. They find the ad and find out where the story is. Buzz, alongside Slinky, Rex, Ham, and Mr. Potato will go to that store to save Woody. The movie doesn't forget to be funny. Bo Peep is like, give this to Woody when you see him, and then she kisses Buzz. And then Buzz is like, I don't think it could have the same meaning if I give this to Woody. Meanwhile, Woody and his new friends are watching his show. The last episode they watched ended with a cliffhanger that never got resolved because the final episode got cancelled as the result of kids getting more interested in space stuff. After playing for a while, their conflicts will start. These toys had been sealed away for years, but now that Woody is here, they can be sent to a toy museum in Japan. Woody can't accept that because he has to go back to Andy. When Jessie realizes Woody has an owner, her world shatters. She and Woody start to argue. Al comes, and while taking a look at them, Woody's entire arm gets separated from his body. Stinky Pete tells Woody not to panic because Al will get someone to fix him. At night, when Woody tries to pick his arm from Al's pocket, the TV turns on and Al wakes up, so Woody can't get his arm. The remote control was in front of Jessie, so Woody assumes Jessie did it, so they fight. Stinky Pete stops them. I don't know if Slinky's lower half really is a mind separate from him, or it's just him goofing around. Buzz and friends hide under cones to cross the street. They get lucky and barely make it to the other side, but many cars got destroyed. An old man comes to Al's house to fix up Woody. He is also another reference to a Pixar short. While his friends are looking for Woody at the toy store, he is getting fixed by the old man, and it is a very satisfying scene. At the end of it, Woody is as good as new. Buzz meets another Buzz who, just like our Buzz in the first movie, thinks is an actual space ranger. The other Buzz defeats our Buzz and puts him in a package. The other toys mistake him for their Buzz. Woody tries to talk to Jessie before leaving. While they do, Jessie tells Woody that she also had an owner, and in a bittersweet flashback scene, we see how she let go of Jessie when she grew up. This event changes Woody's mind and he decides to stay with them. At Al's office, the toys realize Woody is in his house, so they enter his bag. Buzz pushes some boxes to follow them, and while doing so, he sets free a Zurg toy who, just like the Lightyears, think he is the real deal and follows Buzz. Woody's friends show up. Our Buzz shows up as well and proves that he is the real deal. They try to bring Woody back, but Woody refuses. So Buzz and the rest go and Woody stays. But shortly after, he regrets it and realizes that being with Andy, even though it is short-lived, is the best thing ever. He also convinces Jessie and Bullseye to come with him, but Pete makes sure it doesn't happen. He reveals that he was the one that turned on the TV that night. He is the first of Pixar's twist villains lineup, and unlike their Disney counterparts, they are mostly bluff because Pixar executes it well. While the other toys chase Al, they see Zurg. New Buzz fights him. Zurg defeats him, and before he pulls the trigger, they make a Star Wars reference. Zurg is actually the father of Buzz Lightyear. When I first watched this movie, I hadn't watched any Star Wars movie, so this to me was actually the plot twist of the decade instead of a reference. Rex accidentally throws Zurg off the elevator and saves New Buzz. Zurg actually survives and New Buzz stays with him so that they will start a father and son dynamic. It is one of my favorite joke resolves. The other toys enter a car, and thanks to 3 alien toys, they learn how to drive it to the airport. Mr. Potato saves the aliens from death and they get attached to him. Buzz reaches Woody. Pete throws him off and tears Woody's arm a little bit. Buzz returns with the other toys and defeats Pete. They will send him to the backpack of a girl so that he would finally find out what it means to be a toy. Never being owned by a kid might have been the reason for his villainy. They take Bullseye out of the suitcase, but it is too late for Jessie. Woody, Buzz and Bullseye go to save her. Woody enters the airplane and takes Jessie out of the plane, but the door gets closed. They find another way. Buzz and Bullseye reach them, and Woody uses his pull string so that he and Jessie could get out of the plane. The toys get back to Andy's room, who is happy to get new toys. The next day, Andy himself fixes Woody's arm. Jesse and Bullseye instantly get Andy's name on their feet. Buzz tries to flirt with Jesse and fails. But Jesse already likes Buzz. Jesse opens the door for Buster through falling with style. And Buzz? Yeah, now his feelings for Jesse isn't just love, but lost as well. Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head adopt the aliens. Wheezy is also fixed now, so they all celebrate all the good things that has happened by singing You Got a Friend in Me. This movie continues a trend that was started by A Bug's Life, which is having fake bloopers during the end credits. They act as if the characters are actual actors, and it is one of the funniest and most creative things Pixar has ever done. Seeing scenes from the movie go wrong never fails to entertain me. It also features characters from A Bug's Life, as that movie featured Woody as one of the behind the scene people. This was a trend for Pixar for some years, and is something that I am sad Pixar doesn't do anymore. Even some other non-Pixar animation studios would do this fake blooper thing because it was that good. There are small things like this that make an animated movie much more memorable. Toy Story 2 went to surpass the original both critically and financially. It didn't just repeat what worked, it deepened it. The themes of identity, purpose were explored with more emotional maturity, and the world of the franchise expanded in meaningful ways. Jesse quickly became central to the series, effectively the third pillar alongside Woody and Buzz. Stinky Pete set the template for Pixar's more nuanced twist antagonists. Characters driven not by pure malice, but emotional wounds. Even supporting additions like Mrs. Potato Head and the aliens became permanent fixtures in the ensemble. But perhaps most importantly, Toy Story 2 quietly planted a thematic seed. Beneath the adventure and comedy, it introduced the inevitability of growing up. The idea that love from a child is temporarily but still worth everything. That emotional thread would later bloom fully in Toy Story 3, one of the best movies of all time. But that's a story for another time. If you have personal memories connected to Toy Story 2 or thoughts about its development, themes or legacy, feel free to share them in the comments. I also welcome thoughtful criticism, both about the film and about this video. Discussions like that are what keep retrospectives meaningful. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking, sharing or subscribing. It genuinely helps. And if you simply watched all the way to the end, that already means a lot. I've been Bashir from Retro Cafe, and I thank you all for watching this video. As for the broader Toy Story universe, I had originally planned videos on the books and the theme park attractions, but unlike my Lion King retrospectives, I realized I didn't have enough substantial analysis to justify full videos without simply summarizing publicly available material. If I revisit those topics in the future, it'll be when I have something worthwhile to add. Until then, see you next time.